Good morning, guys. And today what we're going to do is move into 10.6, which is all about tangents, secants, and different angle measures in circles. So let's jump right into it. There actually aren't that many examples here. 10.4 and 10.6 are very close, so I just kind of split the notes in half that I would normally do. So let's get into it. The theorem says if two secants or chords intersect in the interior of a circle, then the measure of an angle formed is the average of the measure of the arcs intercepted by the angle and its vertical angle. So what does this mean? Basically, if we have a circle and we have two chords or two arcs, however you want to look at it, that are intersecting each other in the circle, right? They're meeting, those two chords are meeting in the circle. That's not the center of the circle, that's just their intersection point. This means that if I wanted to find maybe this angle here, I would take its intercepted arc, or in this case its arc formed, and the arc of its vertical angle, so I'm going to do that in blue. So its vertical angle is across from it, that vertical angle. So I would take those two arcs here, I would add them together, and I would divide by 2, or find the average, and that would get me my angle measure. Okay? Basically, I told you I would keep giving you shortcuts for all of these theorems. Easy way to remember, if the angle is in the circle, the angle is equal to arc plus arc divided by 2. Different arcs, so one arc plus the other arc divided by 2. And the best way to see this is just to do it. So if we look, we are trying to find the value of x. So the first thing you want to ask yourself is, x an angle or an arc? So x is an arc. Okay, and remember my examples can be a little challenging. So this is an arc, and it's actually arc XC. So we're going to ask ourselves, we want to follow the formula. If the two chords meet inside the circle, the formula that we're going to use is the angle is equal to arc plus arc divided by 2, finding the average. So you're going to ask yourself, in this case, we're finding an arc, so we're just going to plug in one of our arcs here is just going to be x, like we're trying to find. That means we most likely have our angle. So we have an angle here. Its arc is 154, and then its vertical angle's arc is x. So what are we going to do? We're going to follow a formula. Arc plus arc. Our one arc has an angle measure of 154. Our other arc is x divided by 2 equals my angle. And what is my angle measure inside? My angle measure inside is 128. How would we solve this? Well, I would just multiply both sides by 2. Okay, so multiply both sides by 2. You'll get 256 equals 154 plus x. So that means x is just equal to 102, and it is in degrees. Okay, and I'll circle that in blue so you could see it. There we go. America colors. Okay, let's look at B on the other hand. So remember, the important thing about this theorem is you want to use the angle and its arc, the vertical angle and its arc. Okay, so you want to make sure you're using the right angle with the right arc. If we look at example 2, our next example, what we see is that our angle does not go with our arcs that we are given. Neither does that angle's vertical angle. So what are we going to do? Well, I'm going to make it very simple. I'm going to make another variable, call it, I don't know, y, that makes sense. That is my angle that goes with my arc of 75 and 55. The angle creates the arc of 75, its vertical angle has an arc of 55. I'm going to find that angle. And then what I can do is I could subtract, I'm going to clear out this picture so we can see it. If I create y here, they form a line, they're a linear pair, I could subtract from 180 to find x. Okay, so that is my plan here. That's how I'm going to go about this. Okay, so again, I'm going to solve for y. So my formula, arc plus arc divided by 2 equals my angle. My arc is 75 plus 55 divided by 2 equals my angle. That means that we're going to have 130 divided by 2. So y is equal to 65 degrees. But remember, I don't necessarily want y. What do I want? Well, these two angles, the x and the now 65, what was y, form a linear pair. So to find that piece, we're going to do 180 minus 65. So that means x is going to equal 115 degrees. Okay, so definitely some challenging ones. The try problems I don't believe are too bad. If you wanted to go and check them and try them out, you could do that. Okay? Again, they're on the worked out notes. You'll find those try problems in the blank notes too, so you could try them. You can ask me any questions. You also, guys, you have a textbook. You can look this up on 10.6 if you want to look at a few different examples and things. Okay, and our next theorem, if we look, this theorem says if two secants, a secant and a tangent, or two tangents intersect in the exterior of a circle, then the measure of the angle formed is 1/2 the difference of the measure of the intercepted arcs. So what does this mean? So far in 10.4, we looked at what happened if the angle was on the circle. If the angle is on the circle, 2 times the angle equals the arc. In our last examples, we looked at what happened when the angles met inside of the circle. That was when we find the average. Arc 1 plus arc 2 divided by 2 equals my angle. Now, if you look at these examples right here, all of the angles are forming or intersecting outside of the circle. So all of our angle A's are occurring outside of the circle. When this is true, we use the formula. The angle equals the outer, now this is outer arc, minus inner arc divided by 2. So the angle is outer arc, or outer, minus inner arc divided by 2 equals my angle. Now these can sometimes be a little challenging, but that's why we're going to go through them. Ask me if you have any questions. If you look above here, everything in red, they're considered my outer piece. Anything in blue is my inner piece. So depending on where my angle is, these may be harder to find. Okay? So let's look at an example. In our first example, we're going to ask ourselves, which formula are we using? We're finding angle L. If we trace angle L, we can see it meets outside of the circle, which means outer minus inner all divided by 2. Okay, outer minus inner all divided by 2. So, what am I going to do? I'm going to identify my outer arc and my inner arc. My outer arc, the piece of the arc that's on the outside, is in red. Okay, my inner arc is in blue. They tell me that's 102, and we are trying to find angle L. So what I can do is I can call angle L X. Remember, it's an angle. So we're trying to find that angle. If we are trying to find our angle, that means that that's going to be our variable. X is equal to outer minus inner divided by 2 equals my angle. So my angle is my X. That means I need to know my outer and my inner arc. Well, I know my inner arc is 102. What is my outer arc? Well, if we see, everything that I just circled is a circle, and a circle adds to 360. So that means if my inner arc is 102, in this case, my outer arc would have to be 360 minus 102, which would give me that my outer arc would end up being 258. Okay, so my outer arc is 258. So my formula says outer minus 102 is my inner, divided by 2 will equal my angle L. If I solve that, I'll get 156, so X will equal 156 over 2, which is just 78 degrees. So the measure of angle L equals 78 degrees. Okay? Next one, the measure of arc CD. So now what we're trying to find is the measure of the outer arc. This is very important, guys, so please listen. You cannot just say, okay, my inner arc is 95, 360 minus 95 will give me my outer. Does everyone notice? I'm going to mark it in blue. We have this piece of arc that's arc BD, that doesn't have a measure. It's also not inside of my angle A, so we can't use it. It's not outer, it's not inner, it's just not being used in this problem at all. So we're a little stuck because we're not finding an angle anymore. So let's see. We know our formula is outer minus inner divided by 2 equals my angle. My outer piece I don't know. I'm going to call that X. My inner piece is 95. So that's my inner. And my angle A is 56. So I'm just going to plug it in the formula. Outer is X minus inner is 95 divided by 2 equals 56. I can solve this. Multiply both sides by 2. X minus 95 equals 112. X is going to equal 207. And this is the measure of arc CD. Okay? So just follow those formulas. If it's outside of the circle, if the angle is outside the circle, trace the angle, identify your outer and your inner and your angle, and then you can plug into this formula. And our last example that we're going to look at. So this is actually a word problem. I just wanted to give us a taste of one. It says, the diagram shows the path of a light ray as it hits a drop of water. The ray is bent or refracted at points A, B, and C. If the measure of arc XY is 84 and the measure of angle B is 64, we want to find the measure of angle D. So what's going on here is we're actually combining what we talked about in 10.4 and 10.6. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw the circle a little bit. And we see that we have this angle ABC. Okay? They give us that angle B is 64. So remember, if the angle is on the circle, 2 times the angle equals the arc. So that means that my arc AC is 2 times 64, which is 128. Okay? So that's going to be 128. Now I'm going to see if that helps me at all. So I'm going to draw my other diagram with my outer angle D on it. And I'm going to now add, now that's not perfect, let me make that a little bit better. Not exact. Actually, let's redraw that. Sorry about that, guys. At least you spent most of the year with me and you know how bad my drawing is by this point. So we have our angle, and then here is angle B, and that looks much better. So we know that angle B is 64, but we use that to find this arc right here, arc AC, which is 128 degrees. Okay? Now, they also tell us that arc XY is 84 degrees. And they ask us to find the measure of angle D. If you'll notice at this point, what we just found when we took angle B and multiplied it by 2 and found arc AC, we found our outer arc. They gave us the 84, which ended up being our inner arc. And then we are trying to find our angle, which is angle D. So we already used what we needed from 10.4. Let's go on to 10.6, which says if our angle meets outside of the circle, outer minus inner divided by 2 equals my angle. My outer is 128, my inner is 84, divided by 2, and what we get is 44 over 2, which ends up being 22 degrees. So angle D, the measure of angle D I should say, is 22 degrees. Mind this 2 right here, it's part of this equation. Okay? So it ends up being, and I'll write it up here just so it's a little bit neater, the measure of angle D equals 22 degrees. Let me erase that down here. I'll put the 2 back. There we go. Okay, and that will equal my angle. Now from here, what you're going to want to do is go complete the lesson check. It's very simple. You can complete the homework. The next time I see you, we're most likely going to review. Again, if you want to look for more videos of this, look online, ask me questions, check Khan Academy, go in your book, look at some examples that can help you, and also ask your peers and ask me. I'm happy to answer anything that you may need. Good job today, guys, and I will hopefully see you real soon.